Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the Compassionate, the Merciful. I am very grateful to God for giving us this blessing to meet again with our Benedictine brothers and sisters in our ninth round of Catholic Shia Dialogue. And I feel that every time we meet, we go deeper in our unity and our brotherhood. And last night I had a feeling that although we have not met since September 2017 in Nairobi, but it was as if we have lived together all the time. I had this feeling that we were together in spirit. I was very impressed by Abbot Primate's presentation on conversion in the Bible, and I have this feeling that maybe there is no need for me to talk because it seems as if we are saying the same things, but maybe just the packing or wrapping is different. But I will try to do my packing, but you really unpacked it well. Normally in dealing with such topics, we start with, for example, the scripture, and then we go to the way theologians have tried to understand the topic. But I want to do the opposite. I want to first have a little introduction to how Muslim theologians looked at the issue of embracing faith or conversion. And then I try to go myself into the ocean of the Qur'an and find some pearls that can help. You may know that one of the very early topics in Islamic science of Kalam, which is not exactly theology, because theology is more general than Kalam. Kalam is mostly about doctrines of faith. Theology can include also morality and other things. In the early centuries, from actually very first century, one of the major topics was who is a believer? Because after the demise of the Prophet, some important issues emerged and Muslims differed. And then some looked at others as people who have lost their faith. They excommunicated them. One of the topics which were very heated was if someone commits a major sin, is he still a believer or not? Murtakibul kabira. You may know that in Islamic tradition, sins are divided into minor and major. Major sin is the one that if someone commits, deserves hell punishment, unless that person repents or is forgiven. Minor sin is a sin which is not that big. We have different lists and different enumeration of major sins. But it's not always accepted that the same list, universally accepted. No. But for example, one of the major sins is, or maybe the greatest is, Sheikh, to associate partners to God, so like idol worshipping. This is a major sin. Or another major sin is to be despaired. If you say that God is not going to forgive me, it's a major sin. Because no matter how sinful we are, we should always have hope in His mercy. So this is one of the sins. Even it is said that if someone has killed prophets and he thinks that God definitely is not going to forgive him, this sin is greater than killing the prophets. Because despair puts you in the hands of Satan. And you become always worse and worse. But if you really want to convert or transform yourself, God is welcoming you. So there was a group that, unfortunately, it seems even today in the Muslim world we have similar approach. They were Kharijites. I would say Khawarij. Kharijites, they were very strict about practices. They are described as people that they were very much praying. Sometimes, their forehead was even, injured because of praying, and fasting. But they were very ritualistic. And they had the idea that whoever commits a major sin is kafir, is infidel. And even they went that far that they gave themselves permission to kill them. So our first Imam, Imam Ali, when he became the Caliph, he ruled for 5 years. One of the biggest challenges he had was to deal with these people who were Muslims, but they didn't recognize other Muslims as Muslims. Even they didn't recognize Imam Ali, who is the Caliph for all Muslims, Imam of Shia from the time the Prophet passed away. But after 25 years, all Muslims wanted him to be the Caliph. They thought that he is not a believer, and actually they killed him. And this is why today we think this movement is revived. Not maybe with the same name, but we call this, like ISIS people, we call them modern Kharijites. Because they have such limited understanding that if someone is not like them, they excommunicate. They say, you are kafir, you are infidel, and, we should get rid of you. This question, which was very also political, many times in the beginning, theological issues had political origins. Nowadays can be sometimes the other way around, but in that time, politics led to formation of different sects and different things. So, because of this issue that they were not happy with the Caliph, with Imam Ali, and they were insisting that he is wrong, and also they insisted that Muawiyah is wrong. Anyway, this issue then went to a deep theological level, and different theologians had to take a stance about this. What is Iman? If we define what is faith, then we can decide who is going out and who is coming in. So, although it is in hands of God and also it's a knowledge of God, but sometimes theologians try to articulate who enters circle of faith and who leaves the circle of faith. And if we understand this properly, then we understand who is converting and who can convert. What is our role? What is human role? What is divine role? What is person's role? So, this led to a big discussion about what is the nature of faith. And here we mean by faith the basic level of religiosity. So how you just go through the gate of religion. We are not talking about the ranks inside religion. How you enter. Some people emphasized on practices. Some people emphasize on declaration. If you declare with your tongue that there is no God but Allah, one God, and Prophet Muhammad is his messenger, then you enter the circle of faith. Some people said it's a matter of affirmation in the heart. Some people said it's a matter of knowledge. Some people mixed and said all these four must be there. Some said, two of them are enough. So we have a wide range of opinions. What is my humble understanding is this. And then after mentioning this, I go to the Quranic part. Many years ago, maybe about 25 years ago, I was doing a research on the Quranic perspective on faith. And it was very interesting for me to know how the Quran looks at faith and what is the nature of faith. Is faith something which is voluntary, or you don't have any role, you are passive? Is it your decision or it's not your decision? So I made some study. I read the Quran from the beginning to the end, taking notes, or reading lots of hadith. I think I read the whole Kafi to understand this question. My conclusion is this, that faith, and I repeat, because in Quran and in Islam, we use the term Islam in different ways. We use the term Iman in different ways. And we have to be very careful. My understanding is that faith, in the sense of entering into the circle of believers, requires knowledge. But it's not a matter of knowledge. Requires knowledge. You must know that, for example, God exists. You must know that this is divine revelation and the prophet is a true prophet. You must know that. But to know doesn't make you a believer. Because the Quran tells us that there were people who were very certain, but still they didn't believe. جَحَدُوا بِهَا وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوًّا. There were people who denied divine communications although they were sure about it. They knew also trustworthiness and honesty of the prophet, but they didn't believe in him. It is very interesting that some of the closest people to the prophet believed in him, and some of the closest people didn't believe in him. If all the closest people had believed in him, it could be thought that this is a kind of bias. If all the closest people had denied him, it could be interpreted as maybe they know something about him that people who are far, they don't know. But it is interesting, some of the closest people, like his wife and his cousin, they believed in him, but some of his uncles rejected him. And, for example, Abu Lahab was the uncle of the Prophet. He was one of the leaders of pagans, and he was very stubborn. So, it's not a matter of knowing. He knew that this was a man of God. They have never, ever heard any lie from him. They knew he's intelligent, he's not a confused person. They saw the signs, but they didn't believe. So, faith is not a matter of knowledge only. If I get chance, I come back to this question that, is it a condition or not? Because I have an idea that might be different from some people. Right now, I say it's not a matter of knowledge, but knowledge is required. Faith is not also a matter of practice. Why? Because maybe someone at 10 o'clock embraces faith, wholehearted. But still we have 2 hours till this person, for example, has the first chance to pray. So he has not prayed. And it's not months of Ramadan, so he has not fasted and he has not gone to Hajj. If someone wholeheartedly at 10 a.m. believes in God, and then at 11 a.m. he dies, can we say he is not a believer because he has not practiced anything? No, I think he is a believer. Because practice is an outcome of faith when situation allows that. But if time doesn't permit, or if this person has to hide his faith and cannot practice, because if he says prayer, they may kill him, for example. If he goes to Hajj, they may kill him. So, what is important, as we say in theology, is iltizam, commitment to act when the opportunity is there. But action is not an indicator of faith, in the sense that if someone doesn't act because situation was not suitable, we say you are not a believer. What about declaration? Many people have focused on declaration. They say if you don't declare, we say shahadatain. If you don't declare your faith, you are not a believer. And some people said this declaration has to be also when there are some witnesses. For example, if I want to become a Muslim, suppose I was an idol worshipper, a pagan, then they say you have to go and declare your faith in front of some other people, because this is a formal way of entering the circle. Again, my humble understanding is that declaration is something that naturally happens, but if for some reason someone is not able to declare, we cannot say he's not a faithful person. So, normally when people embrace faith, normally they are so happy that they don't need to be told that you must express it. They want to tell everyone, I remember with my wife many, many years ago, 20 years ago, in, I think it was Aberdeen. In Aberdeen, we went to a supermarket, and a Christian lady came to us. She was maybe in her 60s, something, or more. And she was talking to us with excitement and passion, and asked about my name, and then was talking, saying Muhammad, Muhammad, and he said, I have been baptized, and it's like new life for me, and she had discovered faith again, and was so happy to see some religious people, so it was supermarket was talking to us, and you could feel how much her soul was touched. Such people don't need someone tells them you should declare your faith. I think their declaration is like a cry of joy. So they automatically want to cry out of joy. If some jurists say that, for example, declaration is needed, I think it's just a matter of formality so that other members of community know who is a faithful person so that they can, deal with that person as a faithful. Otherwise, between you and God, I think faith is established the moment that person does something. And that is, in my understanding, not knowledge, not practice, not declaration. That is when you welcome certain facts with your mind and heart. When you open yourself to certain facts. Why I say open? Because sometimes we know something, but then we close ourselves. We don't want to accept it. It's rejection. You reject. Even maybe you know, but you reject. But faith is a matter of opening your heart to the fact that you know by your mind. So my understanding is that the core of faith is something that is a matter of heart. You can say submission to the truth. You can say opening yourself to the truth. You can say committing yourself to the truth. You can say being humble before the truth. But it's mainly a matter of heart. And this is very important because then you realize that by sword you cannot convert people. Even by education, if it is theoretical education, you cannot convert people. You cannot even, improve condition of people. It's all a matter of heart. And heart is very wild. As soon as a heart feels someone is trying to control, runs away. As soon as there is force and pressure, heart rejects. Transformation of the heart needs love, needs care. And this is what we should observe for ourselves, and also when we want to educate our children or our students, or if we want to present faith, it can never be by force. It can never be by ridiculing people or humiliating people or imposing on people. So let's go to the Quran and see what the Quran says about conversion. We have lots of ideas here, and unfortunately our time is very limited, so I already have stopped 20 minutes. I have selected few concepts in the Quran that relates to conversion and entering to the faith or entering to a good level of connection with God. One thing is returning to God. You had also something about to return to God. We all come from God. Thanks to God, we all come from God. And this is a great honor that we are not coming out of explosion or, out of, blind process of evolution or whatever. We are created by God and we all have godly origin. But the question is how we find our way back. Sometimes there are some small fishes that somehow because of waves of water, they come out of water on the seashore. If they don't go back to water, they die. We are like those fishes that Peter was taking. If he remain outside water, which is water of faith, he will die. We have to go back. When fish dies, maybe again they throw it in the sea. But this is not working. The Quran tells us you are anyway going back to God, like a dead fish that also has to go back to sea. But what is important, that with your own decision, you quickly go back to God before it gets too late, so that you can gain a higher level of life. So the Quran talks about returning to God and revival. Revival is a very important concept in the Quran. I talk about two of them, both of them. Let me first mention the story of magicians. You know that when Moses went to Pharaoh to speak to him, because God told him, go to Pharaoh. And it is interesting that God said, you should go and speak to Pharaoh. لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرُ أَوْ يَخْشَى. Maybe he would remember, or his heart becomes humble. This is conversion. So God said to Moses and Aaron, there is a chance of conversion in Pharaoh. So even someone like Pharaoh, you should not say, he may not change. But he is arrogant. He would never come to you. You should go to him. And speak softly. Ula lahu qawlan layyana. Speak softly with him. Maybe this shows that even someone like Pharaoh, you should be hopeful. Because he's a human being. And human beings, no matter how bad they are, no matter how sinful they are, how corrupt they are, God has put so much of potential for a spirituality in them that it's very hard to find a human being that is absolutely hopeless. It's possible, but it's very hard. The Quran said there are people whose hearts are sealed, but this is very rare. Because when someone like Pharaoh can change, then how many people are worse than him? So, this لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرْ أَوْ يَخْشَى is conversion. But unfortunately, Pharaoh didn't accept. But what is amazing is that Pharaoh decided to prove to people that Moses is fake and dishonest. He is not a man of God, and what he does is not miracles. So he said, we will call magicians. And actually what he did, he brought the best magicians that he had access to. Not only magicians of the same town. And he also said that we choose the day of feast, Yawm az-Zina, and a place that everyone can watch. So in a day of feast, and where everyone can watch, he brought the best magicians. Sometimes I say, Moses could not have the best campaigner other than Pharaoh, because he made this campaign for him. Imagine he invites everyone and brings best magicians. And these magicians are people who do magic. And magic is not something which is favored. And they were doing magic as a kind of business, gaining money or reputation. And they were happy to challenge prophet of God, Moses. And their only concern was payment. The Quran says in two places, they said to Pharaoh, is there any reward for us if we win him? So sometimes I say they were very clever. They wanted to fix the rate before competition because they thought if we win it, Pharaoh may forget. Now he needs us. It's the time to fix the payment now. So, these magicians that in their life they were sinning, and now they are working for Pharaoh to defeat Prophet of God. A very, dramatic situation. But it is amazing that when Moses shows the miracle, these are the first people to convert. The magicians. They didn't start questioning, say, you are, for example, using tricks, or, you are not honest. No. They had radical change. They were the first people to believe in Moses. And Pharaoh was very upset because in front of all these people that he has collected, there could be nothing better for Moses and worse for Pharaoh that the magicians themselves believed in Moses. So he said, I am going to crucify you. لَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ فِي جُذُوعِ النَّخْلِ. I am going to crucify you over the branches of palm tree. But what did they say? لَا ضَيْرَ إِنَّا إِلَىٰ رَبِّنَا لَمُنْقَلِبُونَ. They said, no problem. We have returned to our Lord. So they became martyrs. In a matter of few seconds, what happened to them? That they had 180 degrees of change. This is transformation. Inqilab, munqalibun means we are transformed. But ila rabbina, we are transformed towards our God, means we are transformed and we return to our Lord. For us, nothing is important anymore other than our Lord. So you see here, it's a matter of certainly knowing that this is a man of God and he has miraculous power, ma'rifah, knowledge is there, but this knowledge, even Pharaoh had this knowledge. Pharaoh knew Moses much better than these people and knew how pious and pure is Moses. But these people, their heart was opened. This is amazing. So this is about returning to God and transformation. But also, let me say a little bit about life and revival. The Quran says that the call of the Prophet is the call for life. And this life is not physical life, because believers and non-believers, pious and those who are not pious, all have physical life. Sometimes maybe actually someone who is believer maybe is suffering from illness, maybe is weak. Physical life can be even in different degrees, but not reflecting your faith, your piety. But there is another type of life that you can have, but if you convert, if you go to God. The Quran says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu stajibu lillahi wa lirrasul idha da'akum lima yuhyikum. O or those who believe respond to God and Messenger when He invites you to what revives you. So it's true that you have entered the circle of believers, but the job is not complete unless you get this life. So we have a basic level of faith, and that is when you open your heart to the truth. But the job is not completed unless you get a new life. You are revived. And this is a really new life. One of the greatest commentators of the Qur'an, for Shia, definitely the most important one, is Allama Tabatabai. And in his commentary on the Quran, Al-Mizan, when he comments on the verse, مَنْ عَمِلَ صَالِحًا مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. Whoever does righteous deeds, a man or woman, this is open for men and women. Whoever does righteous deeds, while he or she has faith, we will certainly revive them with a pleasant and goodly life. He says very clearly, he says, this is a new life, not a change in existing life. So this is not that your physical life becomes better. No, it's a new life on top of physical life. It's revival. A new birth happens. And when God gives someone this new life, then he would or she would operate on two levels. He would see physical things. He would hear physical sounds. But then he would be able to understand things that other people may not understand. He would see things that other people would not understand, or see or hear things and other people would not. In two ways. In my humble understanding, there are two ways. When I say he understands things that other people don't understand, one way is easier to understand. And it's a matter of wisdom. He listens to the same conversation, but he understands things that other people don't understand. You know, sometimes a friend or enemy says something. We only understand it literally. But a man of God or a woman of God, when he hears the same message, goes deeper and understands something that ordinary people don't understand from the same thing. But there is a higher level that not only understands something from what is said or what is seen, God communicates to him. This is very clear in the Quran and in our hadith that God has another level of communication which is only reserved for some people. He communicates to all of us through revelation, he communicates to us through conscience, through intellect, but there is another level of communication reserved for certain people. And God helped them understand things that other people don't understand. Why? Because these people are alive. And because they are alive, they can receive this communication. It's not that God is depriving others who can get it. No, the others cannot get it. So, life is also very important. Another thing is light. Conversion is also a matter of moving from darkness to light. God says to Moses, أخرج قومك من الظلمات إلى النور. This is a collective conversion. Oh Moses, take your people from darkness to light. This is a transformation. Moses was not supposed to only submit himself to God. He had the task of taking as many people as possible to God. أخرج قومك من الظلمات إلى النور. Also, we have the same thing about Prophet Muhammad. We have the same thing about, other messengers, that they all try to take people from darkness to the light. But this has another party, another side. People should want to do it. So, we have Noah, who might be higher than Moses, might be equal to Moses. I don't know. I cannot judge. But it's very difficult to say Moses was, for example, higher than Noah. It's very difficult for me to say Moses was higher than Noah. But you see, he had not that much success in our understanding, human understanding, because not many people believed in him. According to historical sources, only some 80 people believed in him. And the Quran says his mission was for 950 years. As average, every 12 years, one person believed. Sometimes I say, if he had contract with any community, they would have canceled the contract after 2-3 years. So you are useless. Because it takes you 12 years to bring one person to the community. But this is not the way God looks at this. God says, Noah has done his job. He was supposed to call people. He was supposed to offer. It's not up to him how many people would accept or not. Actually, God promoted Noah to the level that is only for 5 messengers. We say ulul azm, those of great determination. There are 5 prophets that in Islamic understanding are at the top. Because, we have 124,000 prophets. Among them, we have 330 messengers. Among them, we have 5 which are at the top. Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and Prophet Muhammad. These are 5 top ones. So Noah, with this little record of worldly success, is at the top. Why? Because for God, quantity is not important. And also God knows that it is not to Moses or Abraham or Noah or any prophet. God says to our prophet, إِنَّكَ لَا تَحْتِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You don't guide the people that you love to guide. It's up to them. It's something between them and God. So, every prophet tried hard to commit himself to God and also help people to come to God. Not by imposing on them, not by forcing, not by being harsh, just by their own example, by their own light, by their own spiritual life. People were interested in following.